We know that there's a big difference between the so-called popular vote, what the national vote is, and how the Electoral College works out. And so because of that, we have to look at those states that have key Electoral College swing votes in them to see how the race is going to come out. I think last time a lot of national polls just looked at the overall national result and failed to really look at the Midwestern states as carefully as they had to. We wanted to take a look at some of the must-win states that would also kind of give us an indication of how things are going to come out in the area around it. So obviously, if you don't win Florida, the night, frankly, is over because of the massive number of electoral votes that Florida holds. So right now, that's critical. Then the question is, how big a hold does Trump have on the Midwest? That was his ace in the hole last time. It was a surprise that people didn't see coming, and he just got over the finish line in several states like Michigan and Pennsylvania. If he can repeat that, he'll win re-election. If he can't, he's done. Right now, we know that a lot of national polls show Trump maybe 7 to 10 points out. So then the question is, well, are those a lot of wasted votes in California and New York? And is it much closer in the swing states? Well, Florida, we have that race dead even at 48-48. That suggests Trump has made a lot of progress in Florida, is very close to winning, has momentum, more likely than not will survive Florida. Then the question is, will he be able to repeat Pennsylvania and Michigan? That's where his strategy seems to be in significant trouble. So those are tough numbers to make up if our state-by-state polls are accurate. If we look under the surface, what are the most important issues? For example, the most important issues are the virus and the economy. And while the president wins on the economy, he's losing in terms of his performance on the virus. I think that that's probably the single most important reason here that he's behind in some of these polls, that people just don't think he's done a good enough job on the virus. The reason that I think that the president is doing better in Pennsylvania is that he's winning the jobs issues in Pennsylvania by a higher margin than in Michigan. I think Florida is very different because he does very well with Venezuelans and Latinos that have come, from Latin American countries that he's shown some support to over the last few years, as opposed to those who are really more concerned about immigration. But I do think the virus and the economy are dominating issues here. And always bear in mind that most people are not happy with the Democrats, the Republicans, or the president or Joe Biden, that the actual swing voters here don't like anything and are making a difficult choice during a difficult environment in which they're unhappy with the current state of the country, even if they give Trump credit for the economy. And that's what I think is making it difficult for him. We know that there are 3 or 4 critical groups to keep watching. How is the president doing with Latinos? He's doing better than expected in Florida with Latinos. How is the president doing with the working class? He continues to hold strong working class and rural vote in the Midwest. How is the president doing in the suburbs? Not so well. He previously won pretty reasonably well in the suburbs, and now he's showing kind of a significant deficit in the suburbs. And finally, the 4th group I would keep looking at is seniors. The president overwhelmingly won seniors last time, and I think they're actually the biggest swing vote here right now. They have shifted quite significantly to Biden, whether it's because they think Biden is a senior or because they're perhaps more concerned about the virus that is more likely to affect them than others. But that's really where the critical vote deficit is from last time. Well, I think Biden's going to continue his general strategy of I'm not Trump. And just as I think I'm not Sanders kind of worked in the primary, I'm not Trump has been working pretty well for him. And I think he wants to just get across the finish line without any real opportunities for Trump to gain votes here. He doesn't want to commit himself on packing the court or not. He doesn't want to commit himself on any more issues than he has to, because it'll fracture his coalition. His strategy has been working, right? He's the first incumbent with what we used to call a rose garden strategy. On the other hand, Trump has got to move points here. So that means he's got to get on to the Hunter Biden controversy, right? He probably at this point has got to put Florida in the bank. He's got to move to the Midwest. He's going to deal with the unrest that occurred in the Midwest. He's got to enforce his image about being the one who could bring back the economy and jobs in the Midwest. He's going to continue to, I think, pound Biden on fossil fuels, right, and what that would do to the auto industry or to, jobs directly in the energy industry. So Trump has a lot of potential weapons, but Trump's best weapon has always been Trump himself. And so I think the more rallies he holds there and the more momentum he can generate, that's going to be his best opportunity to close points. I think these three states are the critical ones, because then you wind up with what's going on with Wisconsin, what's happening with Minnesota. Maybe you kind of want to look at Arizona and Nevada. If you're talking Texas, well, then if you're battling Texas, then you've pretty much lost the election if you're a Republican. You could look up at North Carolina a bit, but I tend to think that things are coalescing in Florida, North Carolina, Georgia, in kind of all the right ways. That the problem was last time nobody knew that he could actually break through the blue wall. Not enough money, time, and effort. Hillary Clinton never visited a lot of these states, but the Democrats are onto that strategy now. That's where the battleground is. I do think these three states are critical. I think when we come back and do, a week from now, another poll, I think we'll have to see whether or not he's been able to close the gap somewhat in Michigan, and whether or not he can bring it within 2 or 3 points in Pennsylvania. We do believe that there are some hidden Trump voters that Trump really needs to get, close to even in these states, and he has an enthusiasm level among his supporters that might carry him over, especially with momentum, but he's not within that range yet. Part of the problem is that people try to read too much into a poll. As I say, well, if I showed you a single frame of a movie and asked you to tell me the whole plot of the movie, you probably couldn't do a very good job. But if I instead analyze the plot of the movie, then you kind of know how it's going to come out when you see the various trends. So that you really have to see the trends and how it's moving from poll to poll to poll. That's why as we look at these state by states, we have a benchmark of where they are. We're going to see next week. We'll probably do one just before the election, and then we'll catch those trends. And those trends will probably be where the end of this movie comes.